Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Tucson Historical Commission Plans Review Subcommittee meeting of Thursday, March 9th, 2023, called to order at 1:01 p.m. I'll go ahead and call roll. Carol Griffith.
Present.
Terry Majewski is here. Ricky Riojas.
Here.
Jen Mulder.
Here.
Savannah McDonald.
Here.
And then Commissioner Ireland is not on, correct?
Correct, but he did say that he was going to come to the meeting just a bit.
That's Judy. I'll talk to you in chat.
Okay, I don't see that.
Terry, I'm not sure what's going on, but you're kind of breaking up for me.
Is that better?
Kind of. It's kind of breaking up. I don't know.
I think it's on your end because can everyone else hear me clearly?
I can.
You sound kind of fuzzy on my side, but I don't know that my internet's that great.
I'm going to mute because maybe that'll help. Do that.
Okay, well, if it gets much worse, I can try to get on my other computer, but I'm not sure I can. I mean, it would take me a few minutes. So, all right, let's go ahead and begin. Item 2 is approval of the legal action report / minutes for the meeting of January 26, 2023. Could I have a motion to approve, please? Carol, you're muted.
I can move if Carol's having issues.
Okay, so Ricky, who will second then?
I'll second.
Okay.
I got it unmuted now. Sorry.
Is there any discussion on minutes? Okay, Joel looks like he's on. What time did you join, Joel?
1:03.
Okay, thank you. All right, so now we have 6.
Oh, is my mute on? Sorry, yeah,
No,
1:03, thank you.
Because you weren't there for roll call. So now we have 6, the full contingent. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and call the roll call vote on approving the legal action report / minutes. Terry says aye. Carol?
Aye.
Ricky?
Aye.
Jan?
Aye.
Savannah?
Aye.
And Joel?
Aye, yes.
Okay, it passes 6-0. Thank you. We'll start now with item 3, historic preservation zone review cases. And we review these under UDC section 5.8/TSM 9-02.0.0 Historic District Design Guidelines and the revised Secretary of Interior Standards and Guidelines. First case is 3A. That's SD 0223-00022 at 211 South 4th Avenue. And this is the change of use from residence to bed and breakfast and special event venue. It's a full review and it's in the Armory Park Historic Preservation Zone. It's a contributing resource and we use the rehabilitation standards. Jody, do you have background on this?
Yes. John Burr, who typically takes the minutes, had computer issues. And so just before which is why they weren't posted with the other items on the website prior. But he did just a little bit ago email me the motions. On this one, the project heard at the February 21st meeting, and a motion to recommend approval of the change of use as presented was made and seconded, and it was approved unanimously with a vote of 7-0. And Rachel Sarah is here to represent the applicant and get background on the project.
Okay. Rachel, do you want to go ahead and put up your presentation and give us and summarize it, please?
Yeah, absolutely. Let me share my screen here. Sorry, a little one downstairs that is not happy at the moment. So if you can hear him, hopefully he'll be appeased soon. Anyways, so this is can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, Rachel, let me just ask, have anyone else presenting to you?
Moses.
Is anyone else presenting with me?
For this case, or is it just you here for this case?
No, the property owner is here and he can answer any questions on operation of the venue if anyone had questions.
Okay.
Yeah, Mike Boren, I'm here.
I'm sorry, what was your name?
Michael Boren.
Okay, thank you, Michael.
Sure.
Okay, we ready?
Yes, go ahead, please.
Okay, so we can see here the subject property consists of these 3 historic homes that have been functioning for a few years now as an Airbnb, and now we're seeking to get the change of use to a wedding venue and Airbnb. We aren't proposing any changes to the building, and we just needed to make a few changes to parking to meet the City of Tucson parking standards. So here's some street views of the neighborhood. We can kind of see where we're talking about. Our property is kind of back and tucked away behind here. And then this is the parking lot that exists there now. This was approved back in 2017 with the wall and the gate and all of that. And let's see. So what we're looking at doing is really, it's a formality that we're here for the change of use. And then for parking standards, they're requesting that we add some bike parking. So we'll have some long-term bike parking storage. And then we're adding a tree to help, 2 trees, sorry, to help with shading the parking to meet the parking standards. But there'll be no changes to the buildings, no changes to any of the historic garden. It's just adding these trees in to help shade the parking a little bit more. Are really the only changes besides the formalities of change of use.
Okay, commissioners who would like to start with questions or discussion?
This is Jan, and I'll start if that's okay.
Go ahead.
I don't have a question really about the change of use, so this may be more for the property owner. But after you bought the property, a bunch of doors were changed out with kind of cheap Home Depot doors. And there were other exterior changes, signage for the Airbnb. I know there were notifications made of violations and it's never been dealt with. And and I'm now asking the other commissioners, I'd like those to be dealt with some way.
What doors are you referring to?
The doors on 4th Avenue, they were changed out from the old doors to kind of fake bevel glass things. And then the doors on 12th Avenue on that house. I mean, that's how I knew it was the same owner.
Yeah, I think the doors are actually the same. I think we changed the original glass to the beveled obscure glass, but the doors are the same. The blocks are the same.
Okay, well, yeah, they look cheesy, whatever it was that happened. And then there were signs that went up and other changes on the exterior.
Well, there's interior signs that direct people where the rooms are.
Right. I'm
Yeah.
totally talking about exterior for the B&B and some, yeah, various things. And maybe that's okay, Jody. You can tell me.
Yeah, which signs are you referring to?
Kind of at the front stoop on 4th.
Yeah, there might be a little notice that says how to call us or something, but there's nothing big.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Anyway,
Jane,
just curious. Yeah.
I missed the first part of your question. Can you repeat that again?
Well, there were changes that went on when the property sold, and I talked to Michael about them at the time. And at the time he agreed there were violations in terms of exterior changes. And like quite a few of those that have gone on over the years, they were reported and nothing came of it. So maybe somebody determined it was okay and they can just tell me, but there was no communication along those lines.
Well, we went through historic review in 2017 with Michael and the whole group, and anything that had been made was approved and gone through, and we've done nothing to the building since that time.
Okay, well, I apologize then. That was never communicated to me.
No problem.
Okay, you have other questions, Jan?
Nope.
Okay, who's next?
This is Ricky. I had a clarification question. So the bicycle parking and the regular parking, that's all behind the gate that was approved in 2017. Is that correct?
Yes. So are you guys able to see my screen still with this? This is the street view from what the parking is. So essentially all of the new parking is going to be happening. The bike parking is going to be happening sort of where this SUV is right here. And it's just standards that City of Tucson is making us comply with. And then we'll be adding a tree that'll, one will be kind of in this area, and then the other one's going to be just on the other side of this fence.
And do you know what kind of tree is going to go in there?
I believe we specified something. Let's see, I know it's on here somewhere. I believe it was a mesquite, but I'm not seeing it now. That might be part of our development package, which is a different submittal. City makes everything really fun. It's going to be a native, something native that
perfect
blends in. Yeah, it's not, we're not putting anything crazy in.
I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, who's next? Carol, did you have anything?
No, I have no questions.
Joel?
Yeah, I'm still trying to get my head around the door issue that was just brought up. Could you tell me which building the doors in question were in? There's building 1, 2, 3, right? On the plan there.
So this is Jan. I may have raised an issue that no longer exists. They were the front doors on 4th Avenue and the front doors on 12th Street. It would be helpful if there have been prior reviews and approvals of historic things that recently to have it included in our packet. So we're not, and I noticed there were no head-on shots of that 4th Avenue house, which I've taken multiple times. So it's not like you can't do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Well, I just okay. And then so what's before us seems pretty simple in my mind, except, you know, that's what I was trying to do, is find the picture of the doors in question that were brought up, and I couldn't in the materials I printed out anyway. So
yeah, as mentioned, yeah, they were approved, and again, the doors are original, but the glass is changed.
I see. Okay.
That was approved before the historic change, before the historic review in 2017.
Yeah. So that's an issue that was about 6 years ago that is not really part of this review right now.
It's not, but when there have been changes, it would just be nice to know that it was, that it's somewhere in the record.
I wasn't actually the architect at that time, and so I don't know what those changes were. We're just here for the change of use. So
yeah. And they may not have had an architect, you know, who knows?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Then I mean, I see no reason to hold what is before it. Although part of our charge is, you know, on violations, you know, if we see a violation, but I agree. That's fine. Okay. Good deal.
Okay. Thanks, Joel. And Savannah?
No questions.
Okay. If there's no other discussion, would someone like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. This is Carol. In the matter of SD-0223-00022 at 20 or 211 South 4th Avenue, I suggest approval of the change of use as presented.
Okay, so recommend approval as presented is what you're saying?
Right.
Okay, and is there a second?
This is Ricky, I'll second.
Oh, great. Is there further discussion? Okay, I'll go ahead and call roll. Terry says aye. Carol?
Aye.
Ricky?
Aye.
Savannah?
Aye.
Joel?
Yes.
Aye.
Jan? Okay, the motion passes 6-0 unanimously. And Jody, do you want to let the applicant know about the next steps if there's any questions by the applicant?
I think we're good. Thank you so much for all your time.
Okay, sure. Good luck with your project.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you very much.
Sure. Okay, let's move on to Item 3B, which is SD 0123-00013 at 275 East 18th Street. This is flexible lot development with construction of 6 new homes. It's a full review. It's in the Armory Park Historic Preservation Zone. These are vacant lots, and we'll be using the rehabilitation standards. And Jody, what is the background on this case, please?
So this project was also heard at the Armory Park Historic Zone Advisory Board meeting on February 21st. There was a fair amount of discussion back and forth. They had previously been to a courtesy review with Armory Park, and before they came to for the formal review, ultimately a motion was made to recommend conceptually the FLD lot lines, setbacks, tentative streetscape, vacant elevations, plans as presented for Herbert Avenue pedestrian improvements, retention as possible of historic curbs, sidewalks on South 4th Avenue and 18th Street. However, the project, when designed, must come back for a full review of all buildings, elevations, and materials for approval. And the motion was approved 7-0.
Okay, so they are recommending what, that the case be postponed. So if we act on this case, then it wouldn't normally go back to Armory Park. Is that correct?
No, they're recommending that it move forward, but when they have the other elevations that don't have a lot of visibility designed, that it come back through for review with Armory Park.
And then us, presumably?
Yes. Kari, sorry, you are breaking up a little bit, but I think I got your question. Yes.
So that it would return to us if it goes back to Armory Park again.
Yes.
Jody, I have a question.
Yes.
So we're seeing what they saw, not what those extra added elevations they were requesting, Armory Park was.
Yes, you're seeing what Armory Park saw.
Perfect.
Yeah, this is Jan. Wasn't the deal something like the plans weren't complete for historic review, they were complete for FLD. And so that's, I think, why it's come up that it would be helpful to see it again with the full plans.
Yes, they were completed. Yes, they were completed for the review.
For FLD, so what would that stand for? I'm confused.
The subdivision, the flexible lot development.
Yeah, okay. Flexible lot development.
But they didn't really submit what we would normally see for historic review yet. Just, so, I guess, because of how the city intake worked maybe now.
So they have what they have, and Jim Sauer is here to go through it. And that's why that motion is set up the way that that was set up.
Okay. So do we want to hear a presentation on this then by Jim? I assume you're here still, Jim.
I'm here. Hopefully you can hear me.
Yes.
I can hear you.
All right, so I will walk through the project. These are the same materials we presented to Armory Park. This was also subject of a courtesy review a year ago by Plans Review. So we went through courtesy review with both Armory Park and Plans Review. I'm going to skip through the project statement on the assumption you've had a chance to read it and you'll ask questions later if you have them, but please do. We've added, some of the materials we're presenting today are also the same as what we used during the courtesy review, and where we have some differences, I'll try to highlight them. But we were asked to add this context information. It's the vacant lot between Herbert and 4th Avenue, just north of 18th Street. Here is our neighborhood and our development zone, because the lot is on we have exposure on 2 corners. We have a somewhat complicated development zone, but all of the lots circled in red are part of our development zone. You can see there's a range of contributors in size and style. Also a range of setbacks from, some zero lot line, front and side, some side setbacks, some smaller, some larger setbacks. So it's a pretty diverse neighborhood that way. Here's the site plan for our development. We've got, and I also have Michael Shiner is here to present as well. He's the owner and developer on this. But we'll walk through each of these 6 houses on 6 lots. The parcels are currently 2 lots, and this is flexible lot development, FLD. And that's where we have applied for the FLD, and we're in the review process of that. And actually, that part of that review is subject to historic because they wanted us to put in curbs and sidewalks around the development, including getting rid of the existing sidewalks and putting in new sidewalks. And we were thinking that along Herbert and, Herbert, we shouldn't be putting in a curb and a sidewalk. That wouldn't be appropriate for the historic district. And along 4th and 18th, we should be retaining as much as we can the original curb and sidewalk that have WPA stamps on them. Mm-hmm. Here's our project, proposed project in context with the contributors and non-contributors. You'll see there are a couple of duplexes across 4th Avenue, a couple of triplexes across Herbert. And here are some of the reference buildings we're looking at. For our height reference for our gabled hip roof building is on the corner of 17th and 4th Avenue. We have some of the zero, you can see the old bakery here on 4th Avenue is sort of a zero lot line precedent. We have some height precedents. And here, these are the triplexes, the bottom 2 images. This is all the same stuff that we presented at the courtesy review. Before I get into the facades, I should let Michael give you a little bit of his background on the project and introduce himself. Michael, you're still muted audio. There we go.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for affording us the time to present today. Really appreciate it. I am a local Tucsonan, born and raised here in Tucson, proud graduate ×2 of the University of Arizona, go Cats. I currently live in Armory Park Del Sol, which is in the Armory Park neighborhood. Lived here since 2015 with my family, my wife, Melissa, my 2 young boys, Arlo and Theodore. We love walking around the neighborhood. We love improving our neighborhood, and this lot came up for sale. And if it ever did, I dreamt of buying it, and I was able to buy it. And now we're dreaming up a project that will hopefully coincide with the existing neighborhood, and would love your input, your feedback. One key point I really want to jump into, the FLD process and how that lays out. So we are currently still platting the property. So until the property is platted, we don't typically have full house designs because we don't want to design homes we don't have lots for yet. So there's an interesting little conflict there in the process. And of course, we want to be your partner. We want to work through this, but at the same time, we don't want to design homes we don't know if we can build yet. So we really appreciate your thoughts, your patience, your input, and would love to get through this creatively together. So thank you.
Great. Thanks, Michael. So I will walk through the facades, unless there are questions before we get to that. Here are the 3 primary facades on the 3 public streets along 4th Avenue. That house on the corner of 4th and 18th is the largest, the tallest, and it's a slightly different style to sort of match the major avenues of Armory Park. Along 18th and along Herbert, we have smaller buildings a little closer together to reflect the density of the minor avenues in Armory Park. You'll also notice that we don't have any driveways or garages on 4th Avenue. 2 of the buildings have that access from 18th, but the majority of the buildings of 4 that face Herbert, we put the driveways and garages along Herbert. So in particular, compared to the courtesy review, there hasn't been a lot of change along Herbert. We explored a couple of options here. We know there was a request both from Armory Park and Plans Review to see if we could increase the spacing or sort of reduce the focus on the garage. And we've worked hard to try to find a way, but there's just not enough space to do that and keep the project viable. So there isn't much change there. Along 18th, you'll see we've removed the downspouts that were going to be along 18th, and we're using control joints to try to manage the size of that building facing 18th. The central house on that block is changed from 3 volumes in presentation to 2 to try to simplify it and also reduce the emphasis on the garage. And then on the corner house on 18th and 4th, we've added some casing around the 2 single-car garage doors. We've also changed the porch a little bit, which you can't see much from this view, but when we swing around to 4th Avenue, you'll see we've made the presentation to 4th Avenue more of a front facade. So we're trying to have 2 front facades because of the corner position there. And we've also tried to merge the presentation of the ADU, which is at the right side of that facade, merge that with the main building so that it doesn't present as a smaller ADU on 4th Avenue. That was a major concern coming out of Armory Park. And we changed the windows to create a more of a front facade here. So we also added, at Jody's request, a lot more information about materials and colors. Well, not a lot of information about color. As Michael said, we're still in the getting our lots phase of this. So we're trying to balance all these things, but added materials and more details, as you can see on this sheet. And then hopefully we have Eric from ARC Studios who can walk us through the landscape plan, which we didn't have during the courtesy review, but we now have a pretty well-developed landscape plan. Eric, can you jump in here?
Yeah.
Great.
So basically our landscape plan consists of a majority of native plant material from surrounding Tucson area, with some exceptions of the live oak, where it's the tree species is utilized along 4th Avenue itself. The goal overall is to provide shading as much as possible, but also work with the confinements of the different site constraints, including overhead utility lines along 18th Street, and create interesting color and character. So that's kind of a brief overview of the plant palette. And if you want me to go into more detail, we can definitely do that. Obviously, we're looking at different succulents and flowering species to help provide habitat and also flora and fauna that for just the native habitat, much as possible. The landscape plan shown here is basically kind of identifies where we're locating large trees. We're trying to drain most of the site down to 18th Street, where we're going to create some water harvesting areas amongst the wider strip between 18th Street and the existing historic sidewalk, preserving that sidewalk to the greatest extent possible. And again, still trying to blend shade with overhead power lines in that location. Is there any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah,
and
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I just wondered if these are all low water use plants to the extent possible.
Yes, they're all native.
Yeah, okay.
They're all native species, so yes.
Okay. Jim, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's the walkthrough of the project. Maybe I'll leave this image up and ask for feedback and comments.
Okay, commissioners, let's start with questions. Who would like to begin?
This is Carol. I have a couple questions. The middle building here is different on this elevation than it is on the other. It's a little bit simpler. And I don't know which you've decided on as a final. if you go down a little farther, it almost looks.
The page 11 that's being displayed now, are these the two that you're comparing with each other?
No. Go farther down. It looks like the stucco on this and the top of the parapet are more crenulated and the stucco is rougher. On one of your other elevations that looked smooth and cleaner, a little more contemporary looking, which is kind of nice because it's a little more distinctive to tell the difference between what's historic and what is not historic. You know, it's compatible, but distinctive. This part, if you go down a little bit farther, I'm trying to think where it was. I did see one elevation that was this.
Oh, this elevation, this is purely out of AutoCAD.
Okay, so it's not, okay, I got you.
We added a hand-drawn layer to try to make it a little more, adding in the shadows and the plants, which we didn't want to have to do in AutoCAD because that gets complicated. So the concept is the same in both this render and this render. They're just two different technologies. And yeah,
okay,
I
so
think our plan is to use crisp detailing to differentiate and help create that distinction from the historic.
Okay, so you're going to be making the distinction using a different type of stucco. What are you doing to make it compatible but distinctive, I guess, so that these don't look like they are, you know, historic properties? They want to fit in with the historic properties, but they want to be distinct, that you could tell that they are modern. And of course, the garages would be a little bit of that, but.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a bunch of details that are fairly, you know, the fiberglass windows, we will use the profiles that would match, you know, the historic wood window, but, you know, we're using a modern material there. If you are familiar with there's a project at the corner of 18th and Main Avenue that Scott is the primary designer on this, and unfortunately he wasn't able to make today's meeting, but he's the primary architect and designer, and the project at 18th and Main, which is his office and his home, his residence here in Tucson, is probably a good set of buildings to look at to show you know, the modern detailing that we'll be doing on these buildings. But I think, you know, that there are differentiations, the skylights, the awnings. But yes, we are trying to be compatible too. It's a delicate dance.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Great, thank you, Carol. Who would like to go next with questions?
I just have a few, Terry.
Oh, go ahead.
Thanks, Jim. And the main question I had was just comparing against from what I remember last time, and thank you for snipping out what we saw last time as well. The ADU on 4th Ave, does it just not have its own entrance anymore? Is that just kind of changed? And
the entrance will be around on the north facade, and so it's you know, to the right. Instead of having it on the facade that faces 4th Avenue, we're going to have it on the facade that faces north.
Okay. Yeah, I was mostly just curious about that. And then I didn't quite follow the sidewalk issue. It looked like on Eric's plans all the sidewalks are new. So where are the sidewalks that you're proposing, if I heard correctly, that you want to keep?
Yeah, let me see if I have a good yeah, I'll try to zoom in. I don't know if I have enough resolution here. So in this area you can see actually that the corner of 4th and 18th has actually new sidewalks with the ADA compatible ramp, but the entire sidewalk going along 18th is a 4-foot wide sidewalk with the occasional WPA stamps, similar with the sidewalk going north along 4th Avenue, 4 foot with the WPA stamps. So that's, you know, the Eric's base drawing for the landscape plan was the engineering plan from Cypress Civil, and I think by default they put in new sidewalks, and we're trying to, you know, retain the existing sidewalks to preserve the historic fabric.
I would just say they
Where
don't
that-
distinguish between the two, really. I mean, it's hardscape from an engineering standpoint. It's not delineating between historic or not. We could have done a better job of displaying that, but it is the existing sidewalk.
But you'll be patching in where you've got driveway and stuff, obviously, and it's still, you know, considered ADA compliant. It's just narrower than what the city would want. Is that right?
Yeah,
correct. As long as we maintain
they would require 5 foot.
Yeah, normally they require 5 foot. As long as you maintain a 36-inch wide walkway and have areas for turnaround, no more than, I think it's 60 feet, where we should be acceptable.
Right, so no variance would be required.
Correct.
Okay.
We'll
Thanks
see,
for clarifying.
In addition to the driveway cuts here, we're also going to have to bring water across, and so that'll be we've tried to gang all that up next to the driveways so that the steel rectangular 6-inch by 6-inch, those inserts will go next to the driveways, so that the damage and the removal of the old sidewalks will be localized to the 2 driveways, basically.
I see.
Okay. No, that sounds nice to me. I kind of like the idea of keeping it intact. Good luck keeping it that way during construction, but I like it. Thanks, guys.
Always, yeah.
Okay, who's next?
This is Jan.
Great.
Yeah, I'd just like to thank you guys for the responsive changes along 4th and to a lesser extent along 18th. I think that really helps. And yeah, weigh in with my support for maintaining the sidewalks as much as possible. I know that's been an effort within the neighborhood. And I also understand that there was initially a request that you install sidewalks on Herbert, which I'm all about sidewalks, but I definitely would not support sidewalks on a minor avenue when it's mostly built out without sidewalks, and that would just seem incongruous and not helpful.
Yeah,
and I guess lastly,
I think was just
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Sorry. No, I think the sidewalks and curb along Herbert is just, you know, the standard FLD review. They're like, wait, you're on a public street, you need to have it. And it's like, no, in this case, we don't. You know, the historic takes precedent, but they wanted to see, you know, and we want to make sure that's the recommendation that's also from you guys. Armory Park was completely behind that as well. So
behind not having sidewalks, right, on Herbert, is that right?
Yes.
Okay,
right.
I just want to make sure.
Yeah.
And then I guess my only last comment is just echoing what the Historic Zone Advisory Board said in their recommendation, which would be helpful for us to, even though we've seen these concepts and they give us a much better idea of what's going on, it would be helpful to see the design drawings when you get to that point. That's it.
Yeah, and I think this might be a good, I mean, that was part of the reason we had a 3-hour meeting with Armory Park, was because it's not clear that the process supports that. But we understand that, and that makes sense. And yeah, we're open to it if that's your recommendation as well.
Thanks.
Okay, Ricky.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions. I'm glad I got to see this come back. And I am also in agreement with the sidewalks. I just had a question about what you had just said. You're not sure if the process supports coming back. Is that just in terms of what the flexible housing is requesting of you?
No, I'm taking that from something Jody said during the Armory Park meeting. So I don't understand it myself. I've not been through this on a historic zone and an FLD. But and Jody, if you want to jump in, maybe you can answer Ricky's question.
No, it was something that wasn't entirely clear, but after the meeting, I we had some internal discussion about it. And so it definitely is something that we can put back in as a condition. The decision letter can be included.
Well, we just have to say we want to see it after their FLD is decided.
It's similar to how the recommendation, I mean, yeah, I mean, if you want to include that in your motion, but the recommendation that Armwork had was the project, when designed, must come back for a full review of buildings, elevation materials for approval.
Okay, that works.
Something similar, but yes.
So Jody, is this something we're going to be seeing more and more as people utilize the FLD option?
I don't know.
Because I mean, if they're intending for this review, because they're not at the point where we can do the normal type of review. I mean, some of the stuff is there, but not all of it. So that's kind of a flaw in the process if the FLD has to be decided with a certain quantity of information, right? So in order to, so that's what.
So, I mean, it really is a percentage of parcels. So whether or not there's like the parcels within the HPZs to support more FLDs, that I'm not sure of.
Right. So if we haven't really done these and we're doing it, we need to do it right. And whether or not, you know, we need to help establish a process that makes us feel comfortable and the advisory board comfortable with the level of review. So, yeah, okay. Anything else, Ricky?
No, I don't have anything else.
Okay,
thank
Joel. Thank you.
I'm sorry, Ricky, did you have another?
She didn't.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know why I can't read my material because the print is very small, but can you guys comment on what the material of the roof is? I know it was marked, but I couldn't.
Sure. This is hopefully this is the same file you received. So we're looking at a standing seam metal roof. There it is, and that's called out. There it is. Standing seam metal roof, metal fencing, and you know the other ones are flat roofs behind a parapet.
And I guess just a question then for the staff. I mean, is that in accord with the guidelines? I mean, I think it looks all right, but I know in West University, those are not suggested or preferred.
Yeah, Armory Park didn't have an issue with it, and I believe it is called out as a an acceptable or maybe even preferred roofing material in Armory Park.
Oh, fair enough. Good deal. Okay.
Yeah, I think so too. You're right, Jim. Okay, any other questions?
This is Carol. Do we need to address the setback issue, or is that pretty much been dealt with? I know there's different setbacks in the neighborhood, but I think you were requesting a change of setback. Is that correct? Do we need to address that as well?
We're proposing these setbacks, and it would help us if there was a recommendation from this body to waive the prevailing setback and allow us to have these setbacks. In my time on PRS, that was not an unusual thing.
Correct.
I was thinking that you said this is still a concept. So if it is still a concept, shouldn't you be asking for setback waiver when you're actually sure, when you come back and you're actually sure of what you have with you?
But Michael, good question. But we need those setback waivers to get the FLD approved.
Oh, okay.
Because otherwise the FLD is non-conforming.
Right, that's what I was thinking. So, yeah. So what are the things that we have the information or can ask a question on that needs to be approved for their FLD to go through? And then basically we've looked at enough of what the buildings would look like on their placement on there. So that's by default kind of what we're okay with these particular buildings being on those, in that lot configuration. Is that right, Jim? But not the details.
That's how I look at it, yes.
Yeah. Okay, so basically we're talking about the proposed lot development, the proposed placement of buildings on the lot, right? On the lots. The setbacks, the sidewalks, retain historic, and leave, don't put sidewalks in on the Herbert side, is that correct?
Yeah, so I would say, you know, it's setbacks both front and side along Herbert. The recommendation not to have sidewalk or curb in the right of way. And then along 4th and 18th, it's to preserve the curb and the existing sidewalk to the extent possible.
So basically, one could say that we recommend approval of the sidewalk plan as presented. Or do you want it specifically to say retain historic? You know, it's kind of complicated because we don't have it written out, you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay.
Yeah, I think either would be fine. I think Armory Park went with the retain existing as, you know, to the extent possible, but yeah, I think as long as it's clear what we're talking about, I think it's fine.
Okay.
And I think it's helpful, Terry, because that is an important element for the streetscape in Armory Park. And because there were some plans submitted that sounds like showed new sidewalks. So just
right. Do you have
clear,
Jan, that you could put in if I ask you to make a motion?
Oh, I was trying to take notes here. Let's see. I think so, yeah.
Okay, so then it's waive the prevailing setbacks and use proposed placement of buildings on lots, and then the sidewalk piece. What else am I missing? And that they would come back. What was the wording, Jody, that Armory Park used?
They made a motion to recommend conceptually the FLD lot lines setback, tentative streetscape facing elevation, plans as presented for Herbert Avenue pedestrian improvements, retention as possible of historic curbs and sidewalks South 4th Avenue and 18th Street. However, the project, when designed, must come back for full review of all buildings, elevations, and materials for approval.
Okay, so they didn't talk about waiving the prevailing setbacks, right?
I sure hope we
yeah,
did.
they did, because they say recommend conceptually the FLD lot lines setback.
They're not always as explicit as we are, I think, about that,
right.
But it's clear that was their intent.
Right. Would it help, Jen, for Jody to put that motion in the chat so you could look at it?
Well, I was going to say that's why it's helpful, because if we're, essentially in concert with that recommendation, it's kind of awkward to be trying to recraft it.
I know, yeah. Could you put that in the chat? Because normally we would have that, but they weren't able to finish their LAR. Okay, so
okay, I'm looking at that. And
this is the first time we're seeing this as well.
Pardon me?
This is the first time we're seeing the draft FLD language, so.
Yeah.
The other thing I'm trying to call up is, I'm doing this in my van, and I have fewer things with me. So I'm just getting the case number.
Okay, I'm happy with that motion. If you generally, what about the rest of you? I mean, are there any things that are missing out of that? Commissioners?
I do not think so, no. This is
sounds good.
Okay, because I think you're right. I mean, we want specificity. Jim loves specificity. He was the king of when he was on PRS, but it's very good in this case, you know, because of it's kind of unusual. We haven't dealt with these before. So, okay, whenever you're ready, Jan.
Okay.
Unless there's further discussion.
Okay, in the matter of SD 0123-00013 at 275 East 18th, we recommend approval of the conceptual flexible lot design lot lines, the setbacks as presented, that is waiving the standard setback requirements, the conceptual streetscape elevations, and the plans as presented for Herbert Avenue pedestrian improvements. We recommend retention of the existing sidewalks along 4th Avenue and 18th Street to the extent possible, sidewalks and historic curbs to the extent possible, and do not recommend sidewalks and curbs along Herbert Avenue. The project, when it's designed, we recommend that the project, when it's designed, come back to PRS for full review of all buildings, elevations, and materials for approval.
Great. Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Is there further discussion? Okay, if not, I'll go ahead and call the vote. Terry votes aye. Jan?
Aye.
Carol?
Aye.
Ricky?
Aye.
Joel?
Aye.
Savannah?
Aye.
Okay, so Jim, when would you anticipate, like what's the next part of the schedule for this?
So the next part of the schedule for us is getting the FLD approved. And once we have that, then we work with our client to figure out what our schedule is for designing the buildings.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, and do you have any questions from Jody?
No, if we do, we'll take them offline. Appreciate all your guys' time on this. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, and good luck with the project, and thanks for the presentation.
Thank you both.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Thank you.
Good to see you all again.
Be
Yes.
nice to have that lot, not a vacant lot.
Take care, thank you.
Bye.
Great, okay. Item 4 is the task force on inclusivity report recommendations. Item 4A is discussion on the best practices for naming of city and county owned physical assets. I think that I'd like to get together with Carol and Ricky, who are the folks working on this with me. And I think we can just simply make it a best practice document that isn't some, that refers back to the information that was collected by the task force on inclusivity and naming, and just not worry so much about, it can be couched in terms of, hey, this is a resource document for you. We realize Board of Supervisors and Mayor and Council that these things are under your purview. These are just some things to think about. And so, I think we need to move forward without being so worried about how it's going to be taken. I mean, it's just another one of the things that has been done in response to that report by the Task Force on Inclusivity and Naming, right? Other people may have other things to say in the future about it, but here's our volley of the net. Does that sound like a good way forward? Do you think, Carol and Ricky, and we can just move forward on that to get it done?
I agree with that. And I have no issue with that.
Yeah, Carol, what do you think?
I think that would be expeditious.
Yeah, and the fact is that what is the point of taking it further? If others, if we raise awareness, I think that's our main goal. And I have been just sort of was beaten down by the few comments, really from the county more than anything. And I just think that I need to get out of that mindset. Just get it done. So I'm admitting that serious flaw in my personality. All right, so item 5 is current issues for information discussion, and 5A is minor reviews. Michael, will you take that away?
Yes, Madam Chair. Since the last meeting, we have a total of 10 minor reviews.
Oh.
The first was we did 53 West Kennedy. That was for a solar panel. 56 West Kennedy, also for a solar panel. Both of these are in the barrio. And then we did another solar panel at 133 East 17th Street in Amory Park. And we did another solar panel at 186 West Simpson in the bar. For Amory Park, we had 520 18th Street, and we just did that one today, and Terry helped us with this today, which was for door height, rafter tails, gable ends, and we did 749 South 4th Avenue, still with Terry today, which was for a door, garage door replacement. Terry, if you have anything to add to that, that would be great.
Only that John Burr, the new chair of Armory Park, was on the minor review, and I think you would agree, John, that we're feeling our way, like what these minor reviews look like, and focusing on the things that are brought up in the minor reviews that Michael mentioned. They actually, there were some tiny questions, but they basically passed as presented. Would you agree, Michael?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. And then we have the one in
Fort Lauderdale, which is at 5483 East Placita de Mesquite. That one was solar panel.
Yeah, and that was a rapid review. It was all of the panels were placed behind the parapet on the roof and sited far enough back that they were not visible. In the end, the strategy was to make the tilt like 10 feet instead of 20 feet. So it was in this. The presenter mentioned that this often happens when owners or people who are installing these are asking for their installation, want it not to be as visible, right? So that was helpful. It was, the plans were good and well done, and that passed as well. So is that, let's see, all of them, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Do you have 3 others, or am I missing something? 1, 2.
And the last 3 reviews that we did are for science, and Ricky helped us on this one. One was at 845 East University. That was in the West University. The other one was at 108 East Congress Street. And the final one was at 305 North Avenue. Ricky, if you have something to add to those.
What was the last one, Michael? The 305?
305 North 4th Avenue.
4th Avenue. Okay, got it.
Yeah, so one was the hut, which is going on the side of the building. One was Wooden Tooth Records. Both of the hut and the Wooden Tooth Records are going into regular brick, but they're going to try to put these screws through the mortar so that it's more easily repairable. The last one we did was for Jimmy's Pita and Pokey over by the university. They're taking down the old sign, there's something that just says like eat pitas there. They're taking down that sign and putting up a bigger Jimmy's Pita and Pokey sign there. So they were all approved with that issue.
Okay. Okay, do you have upcoming?
Not at this point, Madam Chair.
Okay, well, you've been busy with these. Wow. And so, commissioners, you know that once I received the write-ups from Jody, I forward these all to you for your reference. And so you have them once they're decided on. Okay, 5B is appeals.
We do not have any pending at this time, Madam Chair.
5C zoning violation.
Rick continues to help us with the zoning violation. At this point in time, we have about 2 or 3 of them in West University and about 2 in Amory Park, which we are actually working in collaboration with code enforcement. As soon as we get level, we are going to bring it to you for review.
Okay. All righty. Thank you. Let's see, 5D is review process issues. Does anyone have anything they'd like to bring up at this time? Go ahead. Go ahead.
Sorry, just to let you know, Michael will be out of the office starting Monday, end of month. So he will not be available for the next PRS meeting. And if you have anything, just forward it to me.
Okay, so basically Mike will be out of the office starting at the end of the month, or when? Or Monday?
Starting Monday to the end of the month. Yeah.
Okay, so that's 3
weeks.
3/10, 11, 12, 3/13 to end of month, to 3/31-ish. Okay.
Yes.
That's helpful. I just wanted to mention that I thought our discussion of the FLD reviews was important, so that we can be sure we're doing the right thing when we have future ones. Would you all agree?
Yes. In fact, Terry, I was gonna bring that up, that maybe we need to set a time to kind of go over that. It's also new for all of us, but I feel kind of badly in a way for the developers or the proponent, because they're going to have to come back multiple times. It seems like, and we want to have the opportunity to review, the details, but it's tough, I think, because you don't want to delay their project or cost them more money. So I'm not sure what the answer is there, but it might be something that has to be more coordinated with the other departments on their.
Yeah, this is Jan. I was thinking at the very least it should be more clearly explained to the applicants so they understand what might be coming up. I think from our standpoint, there's kind of you're approving an FLD when you don't you're taking some of the proposal on faith for what's going to be coming down the road, and I'm okay with that. But that's kind of the tension of the process the city's set up, which is you can't do the buildings till you've got the lots approved. So,
well, then I think it's appropriate for conceptual, and I think that their review in Armory Park was more extensive, because Armory Park didn't. Even though you mentioned it, Jody, they didn't know that they would have another chance. And in a sense, it's really good that we're working with someone like Jim Sauer, who gets it, who isn't going to short shrift the historic. He listened to feedback that we'd given him a year ago. And, as soon as I saw the plans, I remembered the discussion. But I think, I don't know, Jody, if the whole process wasn't clear enough. I mean, I think this kind of needs to be documented, and like Jody said, some of this can be put in the decision letter, that, because I can see when I ask him at the end about the process, it's clear that they weren't going to spend a lot of time on developing the details in-depth details, right? Until they got their lot plan approved. So, and there were some cases that we had with Bill Mackey. I don't know if FLD was available, but remember, it was a whole bunch of different types of little houses on these,
Yeah, that was an FLD, and there was a Rob Paulus one on 18th that was an
right,
FLD.
Right, exactly. And I think it was very well presented, that what he was here for, what he was doing. And it's not like on IIDs where we have Maria Gayoso on to keep us on the right track. I mean, at least this allows for full PRS review point. So I think you're right. I mean, Jody, maybe you can think of better ways to I mean, I don't think you had a huge issue working, you know, with Jim on it because Jim kind of knows the drill, right? I mean, generally about historic. Any thoughts, Jody?
No, I mean, it's definitely something to think about on more to try to ease this process through. We see many more of these. It is, I'll admit, a complicated concept. So I'll definitely be rehashing this for a while.
Yeah, and then the business, you know, like when the best business model for Jim and his client is to get the FLD approved, but you have to take the design as far as you can. But clearly, you know, the feedback that we presented that didn't directly affect the FLD was helpful to him. And, you know, but he, like I said, he knows what compatibility means. And so we're lucky there, I guess. So any other review process issues? Okay, if not, let's move on to item 6, which is summary of public comments. And were any received by the deadline, Jody?
We did not receive any comments.
And you would have told us about them in advance anyway, so I would have known that. Okay, item 7 is future agenda items. What does March 23rd look like?
We have a courtesy review for some plaque language on the Carmen Teatro. At this point, let's see. We potentially have another courtesy review for a sign on Time Market, and potentially have a review for a project in Barrio Historico. Depends on how they go with the advisory boards. And that's what we have right now.
Okay, let me see something. 10, 11. I may have a conflict because I have a long-awaited medical appointment. I mean, it's something serious, but it's like I have to have this appointment to move forward on other things. And so the timing might not be good. So I would ask maybe either Savannah or Jan to chair for me if I can't do it. Would one of you be available to do that on the 23rd?
I am not. I have TUSD spring break. I'll be out of town that week anyways.
Okay, so that would take us down to 4.
Terry, I also can't make that meeting because I'm teaching the new class for dispatchers.
So I think that would bring us down to no quorum, Jody.
Yes. Is there another day that week?
I would probably, let me look at my calendar. What about the
or the following week where we could have a meeting?
I can't.
I'm out the week of the 20th, that whole week. But the next Thursday would be fine for me.
Yeah, and I'm actually at a conference on the 30th. You're talking about the 30th, or are you talking about next week, the 16th?
I was thinking about the 30th, but
okay.
A week of the 27th. It doesn't have to be, just FYI, it doesn't have to be on a Thursday.
The 30th works well for me. I know spring break is the 19th to the 26th, so I'll have grandkids some part of that time, which is okay. I mean, they can, you know, entertain themselves, but maybe not the whole time.
Yeah, I might be able to, I'll be at this conference and I might be able to, we'll be on the same time zone. I might be able to zip, you know, up to my room or hide somewhere. But I mean, people make the usual meeting time on the 30th. Enough of you?
I can make that, yeah.
I can make that. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Joel, Jan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I can. Sorry, I'm muting. Yes.
Okay, so either Jan or Savannah could chair for me if I couldn't make it.
Right.
Okay, so I'm sorry to do that to you, Jody, but I think it's you know, I really don't know how long this appointment's going to take, and it really doesn't start till 11 Arizona time, or I think, yeah. And I'm not going to make it, I don't think. But you want me to look into that, think about it, and get back to you? We still wouldn't. We barely have a quorum with Ricky out and
Savannah out.
And Savannah.
No, it's fine if everybody can make it on the 30th. It's not a big deal. I mean, I haven't done the agenda or anything. Yeah, I can send out a appointment after the meeting.
Yeah, right. I hope that the applicants are okay with that. But I mean, it would be bad for them to be there and there would be no, you know, not a quorum.
Yeah, it is what it is. So, you know, if they want a quorum, they go with where you get a quorum. It's fine.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll alert all of you, but one of you should be okay with being chair just in case I can't get away at that time. You know, but I'll try to schedule myself so I can be somewhere quiet.
Okay.
And we're still on, sorry, and on the 30th, we're still at 1, starting at 1, correct?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but we'll have a time change, but not for us.
We have no time.
Right.
No, but we will actually be equivalent to Pacific. So for those of us that travel, that's helpful to know. You know, so it's crazy. Okay. It hurts my head because we have offices in all time zones, so I have to think about this. So alrighty, if there's no other future agenda items to mention, then I think we'll go ahead and adjourn at 2:13. Thanks everyone. And Jody, you'll send me the recording and I will try to get my notes certainly you'll have them by Monday.
Okay, I'll vote that to you once I have them. You're good to go.
Okay, thank you everyone so much and take care.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thanks everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.